If you've clicked on this video, you're probably somebody that wants change, has tried to create change in your life, but every time you start, you have a hard time following through. In this video, we're going to talk about 3 ways that you can build self-trust and ultimately create change once and for all in your life. If you would have met me 6 years ago, I was a completely different girl that is sitting here in this chair today. And I found myself in many situations where I knew that it wasn't right for me anymore, but I still stayed in it. Or maybe I wanted to do things that would be better for my future self, yet I always self-sabotaged. At one point in my life, I was in a relationship that had ran its course. I even moved to the other side of the world to try to make it work. I had hormonal acne. I was 30 pounds heavier. I had given up my whole life and identity to try to fit myself into other people's lives. And it wasn't until everything came crashing down, I found myself moved back in with my parents in 2020, had no money. I was bartending again, and I was even riding my bike to work. You could say it was a low point, but at that moment, I knew I needed to create change because I knew that if I started then, that 5 years from now, it would pay off. And now I am a full-time coach. I'm an astrologer. I run a retreat business, international retreats, and I work with thousands of women throughout the year, helping them get onto a path that feels more in alignment with who they're wanting to become versus a version that's sitting right here. So if this resonates with you, you're in the right place. I'm going to give you 3 ways for you to start building self-trust and ultimately create the change for your future self versus the woman who's watching the video right now. The first step is commit to your commitments. Walk the talk. Every time that you allow yourself to break the commitments that you commit towards yourself, you're also showing yourself that you can't trust yourself. For example, say you're wanting to really commit to getting healthier, getting in better shape, feeling stronger in your body, having more energy, but every time that you join the gym, you never show up. Or maybe it's wanting to build healthier relationships or wanting to fix your picker, but you keep choosing the same partners. Where a lot of the times this habit comes from, this cycle, this loop, is you have to ask yourself, what stories are you telling yourself that is keeping you from following through, keeping you from tapping into a higher potential? There's a self-sabotaging habit going on. And where does that story come from? And sometimes it can come from childhood. Sometimes it can come from something that a mentor said to you, a parent said to you, a past relationship said to you, where you identified with that story, but it didn't empower you. Okay, so here is a good exercise that I want you to start with. It's a journaling exercise. I want you to ask yourself in these 3 areas of your life: career, relationship, and health. What stories do you tell yourself in each category of those places in your life? For example, with career, you feel like maybe you have this passion, this urge, this calling to go after something different, or you want to make more money, but you're in a space where there's a ceiling. Maybe you work with people that you don't enjoy, that don't cheer you on. What is the story that keeps you from moving into expanding your horizons and jumping into something that would be more in alignment with what you're wanting to move into? For example, maybe if it's with career, you feel like you're not worthy of making money from a passionate way. Maybe you grew up with parents that said you work and then you die. Maybe you watched your parents struggle financially with money, or they didn't do something that they loved. Maybe you don't have a circle around you that enjoys their jobs. So the stories that we tell ourselves a lot of the times come from the environment that we're in. So what stories do you tell yourself about career? So you have to understand that the stories you tell yourself are your self-fulfilling prophecy. So when I moved to Vegas and I was really in a space energetically where I felt like I'd been working on myself, I felt really good in my career. I'd really grown in so many different ways. I was ready for a relationship. And you best believe in Vegas, I heard that so much, how terrible the dating was. And I chose not to believe it because I knew the second that I believed that, I would either call in negative experiences around dating. I would call in men that weren't in alignment with what I was really craving out of a relationship. And then also I would not find the person that I was searching for that might be here. So I stayed in the belief system that if my person is here, I will find him. And lo and behold, a year after being here, I met a guy that is my dream partner, right? But if I stuck to that story of the dating being so terrible everywhere I went, I probably would have not allowed myself to open up to the possibility of finding him. If it comes to your health, do you say, oh, every time I join a gym membership, I never go? That, if you tell yourself that story, you best believe you are going to commit to that and you're going to see it through. You're going to commit to this belief system that you've adopted. So I want you to try this journaling exercise. If I commit to these stories, where will I be in 5 years? If I commit to these stories, where will I be in 5 years? And be honest with yourself. And if you don't like the answer, then I want you to ask yourself, what story do I want to start rewriting? Is it that I'm going to align and meet the perfect partner at the right timing because I have a trust in my faith? Is it I believe in myself to show up to the commitments to create a healthier body so that I can live longer? Is it with my career, I get to make money from a job that I'm passionate about because there's people out there that need my work? We're always telling ourselves stories, so that's the number one step. Find out the stories you're telling yourself. The second step that I really want you to allow to sink in is trust the gut calling you get within yourself that you're ready for change, right? Whenever we're ready for change, it's kind of almost this annoying feeling that can keep us up at night or that constantly pops into our head when we're in the shower or we're in the car commuting of this, what if? What if I actually went after that calling, that dream that has been nagging me nonstop? What if? And I want you to trust that gut calling. It's not by accident that you're being called forward to expand, to grow. There's something on the other side of that growth. There's a potential that your higher power, the divine source, whatever you call it, is urging you and kind of encouraging you to come towards. And as you're starting to trust this gut calling and taking steps towards it, taking courageous small steps towards it, I want you to get tunnel vision. And what I mean by that is you may run into people around you trying to call you back into the box that you've gotten really comfortable in, but maybe outgrowing. For example, one of my clients, when she started her business now, which she is extremely successful in, she used to be a personal trainer. This was about 10 years ago. And when she wanted to start her own business, right, she was personal training, there was a glass ceiling, she was working so hard and barely paying bills. She was starting to really not like who she was working with. She was uninspired in that work environment at this point. She outgrew it. When she wanted to start her own fitness company, her own boss sat her down and told her how unresponsible it was, how we were going into a recession, the market was crashing, how she was a single parent at the time, she had 3 kids, so irresponsible again to take this risk. If she would have believed that and stayed in the box, she would have missed out on the opportunity that she actually grew a very successful fitness business in the Sacramento area. And then it took her into bigger callings. And now she is a extremely successful life coach, fitness mentor, intuitive, that is financially free. So you have to be really committed and clear as to why you're creating this change. And then go back to that journal prompt in step 1. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? And in order to get there, what stories do you have to rewrite? So get out, ignore the chatter around you and stay committed to your why. Okay, final step. And this is probably one of the most important steps, I would say, is be willing to take messy action. Messy action. I know when I first started this work and I was working on allowing myself to be seen, I'm a double Leo. And so there's a lot around my ego that I've had to really understand, and being the possibility of being judged, the possibility of being cringe, the possibility of being misunderstood, rejected, failing, right? All of these, again, stories, these imposter syndromes that we tell ourselves that keep us safe, but keep us in the box, suffocating. You have to be willing to take messy action. You have to be willing to allow the judgments to not penetrate you as deeply. And you have to be willing to make mistakes. For example, say, a lot of women want to come on our international retreats, but they're afraid of travel. They're afraid of what may happen from point A to point B. They have to be willing to take the messy action, to take the possible risk of maybe losing their bag, or the plane getting delayed, or they may get lost in the airport, but then they have to trust themselves enough to figure it out. And when you make these messy action steps, you start to grow a muscle within yourself that you can trust yourself to figure it out. That along the way, there may be things that happen that are uncomfortable or that don't go the way that you expected, but you know that you will be okay, and you know that it will get you closer to where you're wanting to go. So be willing for it to not look perfect. Don't get stuck in analysis paralysis, and just take the first step in front of you. You don't have to know the next 5. You just have to sometimes know that first one. So what is the first step that is calling you into action? So I hope you enjoyed this video. 3 simple steps: commit to your commitments, walk the talk, block out all the outside noise, stay connected to your why, and take messy action. It doesn't need to look perfect. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. You can always visit our website, rechargethesoul.com, to see our upcoming retreats. They're a very immersive program that's a deep dive and will transform your whole life if that's what you feel you're needing to step into right now. So other than that, have a great day, and we will talk to you next time.
Perfect.
Okay. I was really just inspired to get it done so I could eat my chicken sandwich.
I know.